Mairav Zonszein is a senior analyst on Israel-Palestine for the International Crisis Group. She joined us from Tel Aviv. Thanks so much for your time. The US and Qatar say there is momentum toward a ceasefire deal. Israel has just announced it will intensify military action in Gaza. Can both of these things be true at the same time?
It's certainly possible, and this is what we've seen over the course of the last year or so, and there's been talk of ceasefire, especially since Trump came in, and Witkoff, they've talked about it being close, and then we see that Israel continues with its destruction of Gaza, and just in the last few days, killing dozens of Palestinians a day while waiting for food. I mean, just a total travesty, really, for Israel and for Palestinians and for the world. So I do hope that these reports are true, but I have to say that I've seen it before, and fundamentally nothing has changed, except maybe Trump's willingness now and Netanyahu's political ability to maneuver, which is really what we have yet to see. If Netanyahu, and is Trump going to pressure him, or is Netanyahu going to feel like he has enough political kind of power and stability after what he claims is success in Iran to move forward. But fundamentally, nothing has actually changed because Israel has refused to fully stop the war and leave Gaza and withdraw its troops, and Hamas has consistently called for a full ceasefire. So that hasn't actually changed as far as I know.
Yeah, you raised that spectre of Netanyahu's political capital, I guess, to put it one way. The military strikes on Iran were supported by the public, it seems. Do you think this will have an effect on how Netanyahu acts in Gaza going forward?
I mean, it's hard to ignore that Netanyahu went for this move right as there was a French-Saudi initiative on the table in New York at the UN to move towards recognition of a Palestinian state, possibly reaffirming the need for a two-state solution, and a lot of the pressure from Europe regarding Israel's actions in Gaza. And all of a sudden, that is all forgotten about. So, you know, Netanyahu's timing on this is interesting. And as you say, he does have more political capital. Much of the country, despite wanting him out of politics, believed it was necessary to strike Iran. The strategic outcome of those strikes are not yet clear, and I think the victory narrative being pushed should be met with a lot of suspicion, but it does mean that he might feel emboldened. Again, I don't think much has actually changed. Also, if you look at the polls, he doesn't necessarily win an election again. So a lot of it actually depends on which way Netanyahu wants to go. Does he want to go for re-election? Does he want to leave a legacy and really leave politics? And these things are not entirely clear. I think the main question is, how adamant is Trump to pressure Netanyahu to put a stop to this for Trump's own interests of moving forward with regional, you know, what he calls peace, normalization, and stability?
Just on that, another question, I guess. There was a huge anti-Netanyahu protest in Israel on Saturday. In terms of pressure coming from inside of Israel, do you see the protests growing, and do they have any effect at this point on the Israeli government?
I mean, the protests against the government, for the hostages, for a stop to the war, to release the hostages, have been going on for months and months and months. Polls show a majority for months have wanted this. Even much of the security elite in Israel, the IDF, they all have come behind to support a ceasefire. And still, we haven't seen one in Gaza, a real ceasefire, a permanent stop to the war. So I don't think that these protests are unfortunately going to have an effect. The families of the hostages that were released, they make pleas every night on TV here for Netanyahu to move forward, to do a full deal, a full end, and it's just not happening. So ultimately, I think it really is, it relies on Trump and Netanyahu, and to a large extent, just Trump.
Mairav Zonszein from the International Crisis Group. Great to get your input. Thanks so much.
Thank you.